Hello again, and thank you for tuning in. You are tuned in to The Encourager, and we are moving forward with our Book of Enoch, and we are in chapter 88. And we know from synchronicities that 88 is another one of those valuable synchronistic numbers, 8 and 88, so double portion there. 16, 64, however you see 88 is a good thing. You might see it as 1, okay? All right, so let's get started in the Book of Enoch. To catch us up again, to our new subscribers, thank you so much. To those who are returning listeners, thank you as well for sharing your energy, whether good or bad, because I'm an alchemizer, and the high vibrational individuals, whether you are a reader or what have you, you are also high vibrational, okay? Or at least you should be. One thing that I will mention on the heels of that, one thing I will mention is that I am aware of a reader who stalks me. Okay, so there is a reader or someone who claims to be psychic or claims to have some type of spiritual abilities, and they are stalking me on my channel. Okay, I've become aware of that. All right. So to you, confirmation with the bark. So to you, it's okay. If you want to stalk me, you can go ahead. Just know that my channel is being watched by the feds. If you want to continue to put my name into robot calls and all that sort of thing, just understand, just your IP address. The feds have your IP address. Yes, they do. They've been listening in on your calls. You have been followed. Yep, that van, that car, that whatever. Yes, you karmic reader, whoever you are or whoever you think you are, you doppelganger, you are being followed. You are being watched. Okay? So, let's go ahead and continue with our Book of Enoch journey, okay? And I saw one of those, excuse me, I'm going to turn on the air conditioner. That is going to be loud, just so that you are aware. I saw one of those 4 who had come out before, and he took that star, which had first fallen from heaven, and bound it hand and foot, and put it in an abyss. And this abyss was narrow and deep, and terrible and dark. And one of them drew his sword, and gave it to those elephants and camels and asses. And they began to beat one another, and the whole earth shook on their account. Okay, so we are dealing with, okay, so if you're not familiar with the heading for all of these Book of Enoch readings, the heading is the same. Maybe for the first couple of it wasn't, but for the majority of them, if you go into the playlist, you will find the majority of them have the same heading, Book of Enoch, and it says something about watchers and spirits and blah, 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 blah. The watchers, okay, the watchers, and you have to understand when you're reading these texts that energy can be positive or negative, good or bad. Okay, so there are good angels, bad angels. There just are. Okay, so in understanding this, you understand that there is positive and negative energy. You understand that it's all about balancing. There's a masculine and a feminine energy. That's all about balance. There's land and there's sea. That's all about SEA. That's all about balance. Okay. You have the dog and you have the cat. You have the lion and the lioness, or the lion and the elk, or whatever. It's balance. Okay? You have the elephant and the ant. Okay? Or amoeba, to go extreme. Okay? So, these watchers, some of them decided that they were going to go karmic. And this is a true spirit. This is actually what happened. Okay? This is actually what happened. Okay, don't believe that thing between Genesis and Revelation. I would use discernment when looking at that thing. Okay? That's been manipulated so much, it's artificial. Okay, just like the intelligence they're trying to hook you on. All right, so this is the watchers who have come here to earth, these are angelic beings. They came here to earth and they saw the human beings that were functioning here and they had sex with them. So once that happened, these watchers, right, created giants because the Nephilim and all of that, right? They created these giants. This is where we get giants from. Again, you and I, our spirits have been here in the pneuma for eons. And when I say eons, I'm talking about before man walked on this planet, before this planet was in existence. You were. Okay? So today your name might be Sherry, but in a previous life it might have been Luther. Might have been, and I don't mean Luther like Luther Vandross. I don't mean like that. I mean, it could have been Luther. It could have been whatever. It could have been anything. Okay? And then in the next life, you could have been something. Then in the next life, then in the previous life, then in the previous life. Okay? To give you an example, we're reading the Book of Enoch. Okay? Enoch ascended. Enoch did not physically die a death. He ascended. He was just gone one day. Okay? Metatron is Enoch, to give you an example. Okay? All right. So, we continue. They have come here, and now they've shown the humans, the beings on this planet that were here, these watchers, these angelic beings, they've created, impregnated these people here, showed them witchcraft, that's the spirit of Azazel, okay, showed them witchcraft and all of these things. And so now man practices these things. And now these things are embraced by man. Karmic ways, Sodom and Gomorrah, and all of now these, and Sodom and Gomorrah is just another expression in the past of what is happening today. It's still happening, and it's more so. Okay, we are actually physically, the beings that Most High has created is physically changing the sex of the beings that Most High created. I want you to think about that for a second. Humans are changing the sex of the beings that Most High Ptah, my Lord, has created, our Lord has created. So these individuals can no longer function in their original intent. Okay? There's a reason why a man is born with a penis and a woman is born with a vagina. If the Creator wanted a woman to be born with a penis, he would have made it so. Again, there are those happen. Some are born with both. Okay? Whatever Most High wants to do, that's for that individual to walk out. You and I putting our hand to changing our sex organs, our reproduction, our sacral energy, that's the dumbest fucking thing I have probably ever heard of. Okay? So, verse 3. And as I saw in the vision, behold, then one of those four who had descended through from heaven gathered and took all of the great stars, whose sexual members were like the sexual members of horses. Hung low, I'm hung low, I'm hung low. I don't know why I came up with that song. I just started singing it. And bound them all hand and foot and put them in an abyss of the earth. These are the watchers that were condemned to dwell with Satan. Okay? That's where they were sent. That's the abyss of the earth. It's in the center of the earth. Okay? Even scientifically, scientists know the center of the earth is extremely hot. I don't know how the temperature compares to the sun, but it's extremely hot. 9:33 when I looked at the timer. Okay? Chapter 89. And one of those four went to the white bullock and taught him a mystery while he was trembling. He was born a bullock and became a man, and he made himself a large vessel and lived in it. And 3 bullocks lived in it with him in that vessel, and it was covered over above them. And I again raised my eyes towards heaven, and saw a high roof, and behold, fountains were opened on the earth in the great yard. And that water began to swell and to be lifted above the land, and caused that yard to disappear, until all the land was covered with water. So what are we talking about here? Of course, Enoch is talking about the flood that is to come. Okay, so Enoch is communicating with Methuselah. Methuselah is the grandfather of Noah. Methuselah set the mark for physical living on this planet, 969 years. Most High gave Enoch these visions to give to Noah and to give to Methuselah, and letting them know what was to come. So he is talking about the flood. This is the real story about the flood, not the fucking picture with two doves on it flying into a boat. Okay? It was 7 clean of every animal and 2 of every unclean. So you're only looking at the unclean. 11:21 on the timer. You've only been looking at the unclean. You've only been considering the unclean because that's all that man wanted you to see. Okay? But there are those of us who are here, I'm not the only one by far, who are here to show us the truth about who we are and raise the vibration of this planet and heal the nations, as I say. And the nations are the people. The nations are not countries. They're not continents. Because without the people, the continent dries. It's just like a house. Without your energy in a house, the house falls apart. Your energy alone keeps the stucco and all that stuff together. If you've ever abandoned a house, you could go back 2 years later and it has completely transformed itself because your energy is not there. Your aura is not there, whether that be high or low. Okay? All right. So, and the water and the darkness and the fog increased over it. And as I looked at the height of this water, this was elevated over that yard and emptied over the yard and stood on the earth. It took Noah, by the way, new subscribers, 100 years to build the ark. 100. He lived to be 830 years old, or 930 years old. Noah took 100 years to build a boat. Isn't it interesting that man today barely lives 100 years? 13 minutes exactly on the timer. What would you say to Most High if at 90 he came to you and said, hey, I want you to build a boat? Or at 400. Imagine that. Come to you at 400 years old. Hey, can you build a boat? What's interesting to me about living that long also is, can you imagine being in relationship with your great grandchildren? Can you imagine meeting 7 and 8 generations down the road? Can you imagine? Amazing. I think that's phenomenal. Okay? So, yes, okay. So verse 5. Sorry, I look like I scrolled too far. So let me find my place. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. And the bullocks which were in the yard, were collected, so that I immediately saw how they sank down and came to nothing or naught, and were destroyed in the water. Okay? So, we understand that the number 13, my voice cracked there, we understand that the number 13 represents death. Okay? And rebirth. Okay, we understand that, right? For synchronicity and numerology purposes. Right. So, But that vessel, 6th verse, swam on the water, and all the bullocks and elephants and camels and asses on the earth sank down, and all the animals, and I was not able to see them, and they were unable to come out, but were destroyed and sank down into the abyss. And again I saw the visions in the vision till those sluices were put away from that high roof, and the fountains of the earth dried up, and the abysses were opened. Then the water began to run into these till the earth became covered. But that vessel reached the earth, and the darkness retreated, and it became light. So it rained it was split right down the middle, like it rained 180 days, and it was dry and then the rains receded for 180 days or something like that. Like it rained for 100 days, then the rain receded for 100 days. However that worked out, the numbers are equal. I forget exactly what they are, but it's the same number, okay? Both for the amount of rainfall, the days that the rain fell, and the amount of the water receding, okay? Amount of days that the water receded. Then, verse 8, then the waters began to run into these till the earth became uncovered, but that vessel reached the earth, and the darkness retreated, and it became light. But, verse 9, that white bullock, which had become a man, came out of that vessel, and the 3 bullocks with him, and one of the 3 bullocks was white, similar to that first bullock, and one of them was red like blood, and one black, and that one, the white bullock, went away from them. And they began to bring forth animals of the desert and birds, so that there arose out of them a variety, diversity, lions, panthers, dogs, wolves, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, hogs, falcons, vultures, buzzards, eagles, cows, or crows, and them was born a white, and among them was born a white bullock. And they began to bite one another. So they're birthing this species that they have been karmically impregnated with. Okay, so if you look at this from a human standpoint, let's look at this from a human standpoint for a moment. Or a today's, let's look at it, maybe something that would happen today. Okay, 11:44 on the actual clock. It's 11:44. Okay, in the morning. And so on 5:10, that's a double portion. Okay, that's also 5:2, that's also 7. Again, however the numbers work for you and resonate with you. So, what this means is you can only produce after your own kind. An apple tree is not going to grow a pear. Okay? So, what does this mean? They are producing after their own kind. So the evil watchers, right, Nephilim and all them, they came down here and impregnated humans, and when that happened, humans had giants, and then when that happened, the great flood, because Sodom and Gomorrah and what today we would call orgies and sex parties and OnlyFans and all that shit, right? All that stuff, right? Today, it's no different. Again, technology just looks that way. The horse is no different than the combustion engine, except for the fact that the combustion engine is more powerful than the horse. It doesn't make it any different, right? They call it horsepower, because man has traveled on horse far longer than they've ever traveled in a car. Horsepower, okay? So, and they began to bite one another, but that white bullock, which was born among them, begat a wild ass, and a white bullock with it, and the wild ass increased. But that bull which was born from him begat a black wild boar, and a white sheep. And this wild boar begat many boars. Okay? So, as you go from one generation to the next, and this is how I see 20 minutes exactly on the timer. So this is how I see this manifesting in this cycle going. So the first generation of witchcraft workers and warlocks, let's say, okay? Again, today's example. First generation of witchcraft workers and warlocks teaches the next generation, teaches the next generation, teaches the next generation, and they just slowly and surely become more and more decrepit, more and more filthy, more and more nasty and karmic and Luciferian and Jezebelian, and they continue just to, and that's what's happening here. Okay? All right. So we can see here through what man calls evolution, we can see how falsities are multiplied from one generation to the next until somebody wakes up. Okay? And if this is what's happening in your family, you are called to be a curse breaker. Are you going to break the curse? Or curses? All right. So, 10th verse. And they began to bring forth animals. Okay, I read that. And and when these 12 sheep had grown, they gave one of them to the asses, and these asses then gave that sheep to the wolves, that sheep grew up among the wolves. And the Lord brought the 11 sheep to live with it, and to pasture it among the wolves. And they increased and became many herds of sheep, and the wolves began to fear and oppressed them till they, the wolves, finally destroyed the sheep's young, and threw their young into the stream of water. But these sheep began to cry out on account of their young before the Lord. Okay, so the sheep are beginning to recognize the karmic situations that the individuals that they have been dealing with have put them in, because they're starting to kill their young. Okay, it's verse 16. And a sheep which had been saved from the wolves fled and escaped to the wild asses. And I saw the sheep as they lamentated and cried and asked their Lord with all their power, till that Lord of the sheep descended at the voice of the sheep from his high abode, and came and looked after them. And he called to that sheep which had escaped from the wolves, and spoke with it concerning the wolves, that it should counsel them not to touch the sheep. And that sheep went to the wolves by the voice of the Lord, and another sheep met that sheep and went with it. And these two came together to the abode of those wolves, and spoke with them, and admonished them that henceforth they should not touch the sheep. And then I saw the wolves, and how they exceedingly oppressed the sheep with all their power, and the sheep cried aloud. And their Lord came to the sheep and began to beat these wolves. This is what Most High is doing to your karmics if you're on the timeline that I am on. This is what is happening to your karmics right now for those of you who have been dealing with this 5-year, 7-year, 10-year drought or witchcraft, warlock, whatever that they've been doing against you, against the collective, however that is, okay? I recently posted a video titled the current scenarios that masculines and feminines are going through. And so perhaps you are interested in that video, and it might shed some light on what you're going through currently, okay? So thank you. I was going to say thank you. I don't want to end it now. I was going to I was going to, but actually, no. 20. Okay, verse 20 of chapter 89. And the Lord came to the sheep and began to beat the wolves, and the wolves began to lament, but the sheep became quiet, and from then on did not cry. I know I'm not crying anymore for what the karmics have done to me. I'm not crying anymore. No more tears. Not a song by Mary J. Blige, or album cover song or title or something. No more tears. Okay? And the Lord of the sheep went with them, leading them, and all the sheep followed him, and his face was shining, and this presence terrible and sublime appearance. And the wolves commenced to follow those sheep till they reached them in a sea of water, and this sea of water was divided. Okay, so do we know where we are? Somebody, do you know where we are? Okay, so this here is talking about, okay, Moses or the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea. Okay, are we seeing it? It talked about earlier about the red one. That's the water, the red water. It talked about the red water. That's the Red Sea. So the Red Sea was parted, made a highway, so that the children of Israel could escape. That's exactly where we are here. So do you see the comparison in between the book of Genesis story, which is very materialistic based, and the actual story, which is very spiritual? Do you see that? 27 minutes exactly. That is a 9. 9's all day today. Okay? So do you see the difference here? You see how that book is really a lie, and it really doesn't give you the detail about the journey. It really doesn't tell you about the esoteric and the angelic energies and how Enoch received this information and how we receive this information and how we're made. Why do we deal with the things that we deal with in our bloodlines that we might see as just the world against us? It's not the world against you. Okay? You need to look at your bloodline. You need to look at your family's history. You need to look at those things, okay? Because those things point you to these truths. That King James Bible that's not pointing you to shit except religiousness. It's telling you, and every other book, just about, not all of them, most of them are telling you to put your trust in some other man. Catholicism tells you to put your trust in a man behind a screen and give him all of your secrets. That's the same man who's raping your son. Just saying. And they still support that sorry ass motherfucker. And they, meaning whoever is Catholic and goes to church and gives them their money. You are the motherfucker I'm talking about that's supporting a rapist. You. Okay? Where are we at here? Verse 22. Lord led them. Nope. Verse 23. Nope. We're there. Red Sea parted. Okay? And the wolves commenced and followed those sheep till they reached them in a sea of water. And this sea of water was divided. And the water stood from this side and from that before their faces. And the Lord leading them stood also between them and the wolves. Who are the wolves? The Pharaoh and his people coming after the children of Israel. Whoever it is in your life coming after you. Most High is about to create part the Red Sea. 29:33. Most High is about to part the Red Sea, and he's about to provide a way out. Will you take it? Are you taking it? He's probably already shown it to you. What are you doing? Are you willing to give everything you have away in order to fulfill your divine purpose? Are you willing to forsake everything and everybody you know for your divine purpose? Are you willing to do that? Because if you're not, you can stop listening to this channel right now. Because that's the only purpose for which I'm here. It's the only reason why I share this information is to help us ascend. If you're not interested in ascending, you don't have to be here. You can exit. Stage left, right, up, down, wherever you want to go. Okay? Most likely down. 24, 25. And as those wolves did not yet see the sheep, they went into the middle of the water, and the wolves followed the sheep and ran after them into the sea of water. And when they saw the Lord of the sheep, they turned that they might flee from before his face. But this sea of water came back together in Jim Carrey's bowl of cereal and Bruce Almighty. Back together, or soup, I think it was soup. Itself together, and suddenly took again its own character. So what did it do? It became a complete body of water, unseparated one side from the other. So they drowned, right? Hopefully you cross that other side and Most High is working on your behalf and drowned your enemies. I know he's drowned mine. Thank you, Most High. And again, your enemies are not John, Mary, Susie, Sean, Christina, Michael, Jim, James, Jude, whatever, right? No. That is just the 3D view of the individual who has succumbed to the energy that has possessed them. So don't get mad. Don't get mad at Jordan. Don't get mad at whoever. Don't get mad at them. Okay? Forgive them. This is again why the Ascended Master Jesus said, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. Because he was letting us know, just as I have suffered, so will you suffer. Not literally on a cross, and that's not literally what he meant. What he really meant was, you have the Christos flowing up and down your vertebrae just like I do. You have cerebellum, cerebrum, you have pineal gland, you have a third eye, you have a crown chakra, you have a throat chakra, heart chakra. You have these things just like I do. I am showing you how you can ascend to your highest, purest, truest form. But in order to do so, you're going to have to understand that because they hate me and what I stand for, they are naturally going to hate you when you start to see the truth and walk in the truth. They are going to hate you. Who are they? Whoever they disagree with on the truth of. They who want to stay in religion. Whoever they are. Okay? All right. Verse 26, and when I saw the Lord of the sheep, they turned, gathered, watered, Okay, so verse 28, but the sheep escaped from the water and went into the desert where there was no water and no grass, and they began to open their eyes and to see. And I saw the Lord of the sheep pasturing them and giving them water and grass, and that sheep going and leading them. And it says that former sheep going and leading them. And this sheep ascended to the height of a high rock, and the Lord of the sheep sent it to them. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about the ascension, the resurrection of Yeshua. We are talking about that. So what is that sheep? What is that, right? What is that? When I was out for my walk today, I was singing a song because it was ministering to me. I heard it this morning when I was giving the angel numbers, maybe before. It's by Olita Adams, and it's called Holy is the Lamb. Holy is the Lamb. Holy is the Lamb. Holy, 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 holy. love and adore him. Sing praises unto him, for he's holy, for he's holy. Precious is he. Love it, love it, love it. Right? So, that's the lamb. Okay? Verse 27, verse 29. And this sheep ascended. Yes, okay. And verse 30. And after I saw the Lord of the sheep as he stood before them, and in his presence was terrible and powerful. And all those sheep saw him and were afraid before his face. And they were all afraid, trembling before him. These are the disciples, apostles. There were 12 apostles, not 12 disciples. Okay. And they were all afraid and trembled before him and cried after the sheep which was with him to the other sheep which was among them. We are not able to exist before our Lord or to look at him. And that sheep earlier, Enoch, saw Most High. And he also fell to his knees. And in fact, every time he saw that, it was a couple of times early on in his writings, he saw Most High. And each time he fell to his knees, okay? And that sheep which led them returned and ascended to the height of the rock, but the sheep began to tremble as their eyes, ear path showed them, but his sheep did not know it. Okay. So I'm sorry. So this is still continuing on with the journey and how Noah was taken to the Mount of Olives or wherever Moses was taken. Again, I don't read the Bible because I don't even have a Bible. So I am far more interested in the text that man has excluded from the book than I am in reading the book. Because the book did nothing for me, or very little for me, for 46 years and 9 months. That book did not tell me about the dark night of the soul. That book did not tell me Enoch is Metatron. That book did not tell me anything about Adam and Eve when they got evicted from the garden. Do you know they lived hundreds of years after the garden? Do you know that? What did they do? Don't you want to know? I'm just saying, right? You might be Adam or Eve today. Again, your name might have been Adam or Eve. And I don't mean that literally Adam and Eve. I mean, they could be your ancestors. Like, you don't know. You need to find these things out. Because John and Mary that gave birth to you, they are not your ancestors. They are not. Okay? And they are not the ones who are responsible for you ultimately. They are not. You are responsible for your own self. Okay? Work out your own trembling with fear and your own salvation with fear and trembling. I'll use that. And I don't mean salvation like, Lord, forgive me for my sins. That's a bunch of bullshit. And we'll find that out. Okay? You'll find out that saying, Lord, forgive me for my sins is a bunch of bullshit. You will find out that tarrying, like we did in Church of God in Christ at Christ Temple in Joliet, Illinois, you will find out that that's a bunch of bullshit. 29, 30, 23 on the timer. You're going to find that out if you haven't already. 33. And the Lord of the sheep was enraged over them greatly, because the children of Israel, right? Moses trying to lead them, it should have taken 2 years, but it took 40 years. 38. That's important. That's an 11. Just saying. Just saying. So you might be dealing with someone who's 38 or someone who's in their 30s. Just saying. Okay? Just saying. It just turned 40 right now. So, as a side note, Most High brought something to my attention. or something else to my attention in regards to numbers and that sort of thing. And it's, so my month, year, end date break down to an 11. Okay, that's 33. But Most High was saying the month and the date to look at those closer. Okay, so I'm doing that. And that happens to be, for me, it happens to be a 30. I mean, it's 40. Okay, it's 11 and 29. So it happens to be 40. It just turned 40 minutes, and that clicked with me. Okay? So anyway, maybe that's something for someone else to do as well. Found greater okay, so, and descended from the height of the rock, and came to the sheep, and found the greater part of them blinded as to their eyes, and erring from his path. Okay, so again, children of Israel were supposed to only take 2 years to get to the promised land. They took 38 more years because they were reluctant, because of Moses, the leadership, and they're bugging him. If you are a leader of people, you know it can be difficult to help people to see the vision that has been laid before you. Okay, you can, whether you're a family man or woman, or you are an entrepreneur, you have a business, or you are the head of a team, you're project manager, Sigma something, right? Certification or something. You lead projects, you know how difficult it can be to get people on the same sheet of music. What a good leader does a lot of things, but one of the core things a good leader does is he gets everyone to see the vision together, agree upon it, and pursue it in the same like way. That's what a leader does. Okay? So this is our vision. We are trying to get from A to B. So how do we get from A to B? This is what I see, and these are all the moving parts. So delegate. You're responsible for this. You're responsible for that. You're responsible for that. And here's the deadlines for updating me or what have you, right? Delegating is a tool that can be used. Okay? You don't have to carry it all yourself. I was like that as a tax accountant. I was very reluctant to hire people because I handled sensitive information. As it turns out, the shit was hacked anyway by the Scorpio or somebody the Scorpio knows, and the gang stalkers and all of that. So, because again, I live with them, so they had access to all of my information. Social security number, we shared bank accounts at one point in time with Navy Federal Credit Union, like all sorts of things. They had access to everything. If she was to ask me my social security number, I didn't think anything of it. Why? Because it's a divine union. Why the fuck would I be concerned about what you're doing with my social security number? Shit. Verse 24, and as I saw it, they feared and trembled before its face, and desired to return to their folds. Okay? And that sheep took other sheep with it, and came to those sheep that were crying and complaining, and then it began to kill them. And the sheep feared its countenance, and thus that sheep brought back those erring sheep, and they returned to their folds. And I saw there in the vision, till that sheep became a man, and built the Lord of the sheep a house, and placed all the sheep in that house. And I saw till that sheep that had met the sheep which led the sheep reposed, and I saw till all the large sheep were destroyed, and small ones arose in their places. And they came to a pasture and approached a stream of water. Okay, so in some way, this is speaking to the original people or time passing. So in the 38 years or 40 years that they were out in the wilderness, there's no doubt that family members passed. They died. Okay? And so for me, for instance, between 2000 between January of 2020 and December of 2021, I had 5 people, 4. Barbara, Matthew, Carrie. She was in 17, but I certainly still count that. Yeah, so several people have passed, I want to say 5, in a very short period of time, like 24 months, okay? And again, it's nothing against them or anything like that, right? I'm using the number as an example, right? So, those individuals, if they were ancestors of others, okay, and they are, but I mean in this lifetime, the ones that I speak of, 2 of them, my brother Matthew, never had any children. Carrie Fong never had any children, okay? And so they will certainly be back here, okay, if they're not already. So, yeah, right? That's what that speaks to. So Berlin, the sperm donor's father, I've mentioned this often, taught him witchcraft. So Berlin passed before Kimberly was born. I have a daughter named Kimberly, and yes, Steve Parker's wife is named Kimberly. There's synchronicities and duplications in my life all over the place. And so my brother Matthew passed. I was jointed with Matthew and Kaylee at the Rock of Central Florida. They had a Matthew that was sown. Okay? Again, duplications all over the place in my life. Okay? So that's what it seems like. That's what it looks like. So Berlin passed in 1996. He was one of those sheep that had done bad things by teaching his son witchcraft. I don't hold that against Berlin. I love him today, wholeheartedly and fully. If I saw him today, I embrace him. I embrace him energetically right now. Okay, I have nothing against him. He was born on 11/3, 1915. Just saying. Okay, lived to be 85. So 85 is important, or 58. 51 or 15. Verse 40. And I saw the sheep until they came into a good place and into a pleasant and glorious land, promised land. And I saw the sheep till they were satisfied. But the house stood among them in the beautiful land. And sometimes their eyes were open and sometimes they were blinded. Interesting. Till another sheep arose and led them and conducted them all back, and their eyes were open. And the dogs and foxes and wild boars began to devour those sheep, till another sheep arose, a buck, and in their midst which led them. And this buck began to butt, B-U-T-T, those dogs and those foxes and wild boars from both sides, till he had destroyed them all. Verse 44. And that sheep had its eyes open and saw this buck which was among the sheep departing from his honor and beginning to butt those sheep and to tramp on them and to walk unseemly. And the Lord of the sheep sent that sheep to another sheep and exalted it to become a buck, and to lead the sheep in the place of that sheep, or to lead the sheep in the place of that sheep which had deserted his honor. Okay, so Most High is talking about someone who had deserted their purpose and their place and their plan. So once the children of Israel got to the promised land, there had to be another leader that was raised up, because Moses forfeited, because he struck the rock instead of speaking to it the second time. When Most High said strike it the first time, speak to it the second time, Moses didn't do that because he was angry, frustrated. 50 minutes exactly on a timer whenever that was going on is the biblical story that we have. But the actual story, and again, I'm using the reference because those are the stories that we've been told over time. So I want us to see how the Bible is not the truth. Okay? If you like icing, eat icing. If you want the cake, though, let's eat some cake. Okay? All right. Because cake is where the substance is. Okay? If there is real substance in cake. I guess there is in some cases. Or it can be. I've had cake. I had a slice of cake yesterday, day before. I bought it 2 days ago. I had a slice of cake the other day. It lasted a couple of days. That had berries in it. It was a cake that had berries in it. Delicious. Okay. So, okay, verse 45. And the Lord of the sheep sent that sheep to another sheep. Yep, exalted it. 46. And it went to it and spoke to it alone and elevated it to become a buck and made it the prince and the leader of the sheep. But during all that time, those dogs oppressed the sheep. So during this time, the karmics are not going to stop. Luciferians are not going to stop. Jezebels are not going to stop. There's going to be another Jezebel that knocks on your door. There's going to be another Luciferian women that knocks on your door. What are we going to answer them with? Are we going to look through the peephole? Are we going to ignore them? Are we going to open the door and then slam it in their face when we see who it is? Are we going to open the door and invite them in to have coffee or tea or whatever? Are we going to invite them in to have dinner? Or are we going to completely ignore the knock at the door? What are we going to do when the karmic shows up again? When the dog energy, when the fox energy, sneaking, sly, cunning, right? What are we going to do when the fox shows up again? I know what I'm going to do. And the first buck pursued the second buck, and the second buck arose and fled before its face. And I saw till these dogs cast down the first buck. And that second buck arose and led the smaller sheep. And this buck begot many sheep, and reposed in death. And a small sheep became the buck in its place, and excuse me, and was the prime prince and leader of those sheep. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is talking about Joseph, or I'm not sure who the leader was. Again, I've never read the Bible all the way through, and I am learning as you are learning. What is this? So there, I got a message on the phone. It says, parents of dead 8-year-old indicted for murder. That's what that message just said. It's 53:55 on the timer. Parents indicted for murder. Parents indicted for murder. Just saying, people. I'm just saying. There's no coincidence that message just popped up on my phone. Whether that's from me or someone else. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. I know we are in the middle of chapter 89, but chapter 89 is 77 verses. So it's one of the longer chapters. Most of the chapters are just a couple of verses long, quite honestly, even though there's like 100 chapters. Okay, so if you ever want to go out on your own and look into these things, read up on these things your own, certainly feel free to do so. I will include a link to the Book of Enoch that I am reading from, so that you can have access to read those words and situations and read about who you really truly are yourself. Okay, and what really truly is happening here on this planet. It's just another dimension of a spiritual battle. That's all it is. 15 15:05 when I looked at the clock. Okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my name is The Encourager. Subscribers, thank you. I send love to you unconditionally. Okay? I send love to you, those of you who are snooping in. I send love to you unconditionally. If you would like to reach out to me, anyone can do so via email. It's theencourager333@gmail. I am on X or Netflix. Somebody's Netflix, what? Or X, Netflix, not Netflix. I don't have Netflix. If I watch a movie, I watch YouTube. If it's available on YouTube. So, and that's for free. I typically don't pay to watch TV. So, or movie. So anyway, where else? Facebook. I am Nehru Patah. You can find me there. NEHRUPTAH. Okay, and all of this information will be included in the description section of this video. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, my name's Nehru. This is The Encourager, and we are here for one sole purpose only, even though there are so many numerous details and intricacies within it. The big picture, okay, the sign that the airplane is bringing across the sky constantly is, I am here to raise the vibration of the earth. I am here to help us become our highest, purest, truest version of ourselves possible. That is the reason why I'm here. This is why this channel was created on 3/6/23. Okay, that's a 3, a 6, and then another 6. Okay. So, thank you so much as always. I love you and stay encouraged.